I'll share my screen. I'll just share the browser, and then if I need to show everything else, I can. So yes, there's a different failure now, but I think it could be related to some FOSS stuff. But so essentially, what is happening is there's going to be a feature flag refactor of the top nav search up here, which has a lot of, as you imagine, CSS related to it because it responds to the theme you're on, which is where a lot of the logic comes from. And so with the feature flag, since we're doing it iteratively, a lot of the stuff is getting simplified because of our GitLab UI components that this isn't using. But essentially, there's a couple changes here that this is, I guess it's kind of hard to see, but there's a ton of CSS like in these files for the existing one that GitLab UI's dropdown kind of takes care of for us. And so what I assume is happening is that since we're using a feature flag now and our RS specs and like our fixtures assume that feature flags are enabled by default, which this one won't be, it ends up generating this giant change to our startup that is removing everything.
Yep.
Which is frightening when you like see this little tiny change and then like, whoa, lots of CSS going away.
Yeah. So there's a couple of things here. One thought is, and I imagine we're doing the feature flag iteratively, but question about the feature flag is what's going to show up between the time that the HTML is rendered and the JavaScript is executed? Like, is the search bar going to pop in, or are we rendering some sort of box still there for the search bar?
Interesting. So right now it is just gonna, we could work around it because I've done that in the past, but yeah, right now I don't think anything is going to render. It's just going to be an empty div.
Yep. And the top nav is in the same boat where if you click on that menu top nav, that's a view app doing fancy drop down thing. Right. But if you refresh the page, we want to show that button. We don't want to like iteratively build the header, like it should be there right away. So we have a little bit of duplication, and our HAML underneath the element that is the view app that we hook into, we actually create the HAML just for the button so that there's not a lot of page jumping. So that's one like to do just here with the feature flag is with the feature flag on, ideally it would be so fluid, like of when the JavaScript kicks in or not. Like ideally there's no UI jumping around or anything. Right. That's a huge side note. Your instinct is completely correct. The feature flags are enabled by default when we build these fixtures. So that's why we're dropping all of what we were previously saying. So what I was going to walk us through was setting up the fixture for both feature flag on and off and making sure that's included in our startup world. So here's how we can do it. Do you happen to have like VS Code open, or
I can. Do you want me to share everything? I can.
If you want to, yeah, it's up to you.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Let's do that. Let me figure out how to. Yeah, I'll. Yeah, that's fine. Okay. I'll share that, and then let me increase my font so we can see everything. All right, can you see the whole screen?
Yep. Yeah, that looks awesome.
Cool.
So, if you go to here's how I'm going to find it. Let's go to scripts/startup. I think it's scripts/startup CSS. Yeah. Yep. And there's a constants file. That's like the big the constants file, which is a sibling of this one. Yeah, that's like the big configuration file for this stuff.
Okay.
So if you scroll down,
let me give us some more space too.
Yep. If you keep scrolling down,
it's at the bottom there.
That is not what I was looking for. There's the input file somewhere. Create main. Let's scroll up. HTML paths. Oh, that must be it. Yes. Yep. Okay. So those are the fixtures we are creating here. we're looking for.
Okay.
So the type, I guess this is a shared function we have for creating the actual 3 different types of outputs: the normal mode, dark mode, and sign in mode. And so
Okay.
for the normal mode, we're passing in on line 71. You see like the type is general.
Yeah, and then dark, and then startup sign in.
Yep. So if we look for startup CSS project dash general, we should see what fixture file is generating this thing.
You want me to search for that file?
Yeah, let's do a search. Let's just actually do like a project wide search for not for that.
Not for that.
Yeah, if we do a project wide, not a file search, but like searching for the file contents.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
No, you're good. If you do startup underscore CSS / project dash general. Oh gosh, I messed this up. If we just do startup CSS project, yes. Hopefully we'll get to it. Yes, that's it. That's the fixture file.
The fixture file. Okay.
Yeah. So cool. Here, we are creating a shared example, and we have 2 things actually are doing it. One with the dark on line 54, and one with general on line 46. And then we actually have a separate one just for the sign in.
Okay.
But that's where we will create one with search flag on and one with search flag off. And line 33, like right below that one.
Like in here.
Yeah, so we'll create a new one and call it startup CSS / project dash type. I think it's a hash.
Oh, hash.
Yeah, we're not in Kansas City.
Not. Yeah.
Gotcha. And then we can call it search FF on. Yep. Well, I guess since it's going to be on by default, maybe we want to just do search FF off. Maybe that's the thing to do, because technically, okay, I guess it's going to be included in the one that's generating line 24. So just to back up a second, does it make sense kind of what's going on with the what these end up playing a role when we generate the startup CSS?
So yeah, these are the things that, like, because you mentioned that our applications file is like ginormous, right? And so this way we can have some like rendering without like blocking the entire page, like first paint, I guess.
Yep. And the way it all works is it uses purge CSS. And what we take as an purge CSS takes 2 inputs, takes the CSS large, the humongous CSS file, and then it takes any kind of source code. And so what we're actually doing is giving it these fixtures, and we're giving it a list of these fixtures saying, here's the big CSS file, only include classes actually used by these fixtures. And so we're going to generate one with the feature flag off. So yeah, we just need to do a stub.
Yes. I was hoping to get the syntax. Yeah, stub feature. This one, right?
Yeah, I think that's it.
Yeah, like this. And then.
Yep, we just do stub feature flags, and then yeah, whatever that one's called.
I believe now I'm like second guessing if it's got hyphens or underscores.
I'm pretty sure it's underscores.
Okay. Yeah, it's definitely underscores.
Yep, and then we can just get the same thing that we're doing on line 36. Yep. All that's the same. And that's it for generating the fixture. And now we want to reference the fixture in our constants. That's like our big configuration for the startup CSS script.
This one, right?
Yep. So now we want to add a reference to it over in
outputs.
These are about, so yes, and HTML paths on line 50. That's the one. So we have two main outputs, the Stark and the general one, and they both use the same kind of HTML paths. That's what's happening here in line 50. So right next to the sign out, we just want to copy and paste that line and have it reference the new
one we just made.
The new one we just made.
We called that this one, search.
Yep.
SDL. Okay. So we do that there.
Yes. So then we could choose to try to generate all this stuff then locally. We could run the fixtures locally. We could run the production build locally, and we can run all the scripts locally. But I highly recommend just committing this and pushing it up and letting the pipeline run it and tell you what patch to apply.
Okay. Should I remove the existing patch I applied? Just to rebate, like essentially put it back to master and then let it, or is it gonna?
If you want to, I mean, it'll just tell you what you need to do, and then you can squash the commits however you want to.
Okay, yeah, then I'll just leave it alone. So you think from here this is good?
From here, yeah, I would commit it and let the pipeline run. The one other thing to keep in mind on, this is a gotcha currently with Startup CSS. You might have already run into this. Technically, these can be different. Our inputs can be different in EE and CE. So therefore, we have an EE startup CSS files and we have CE startup CSS files. But because of the way our pipeline works, we only get one set of fixtures per pipeline run. Like, so if we run Karma fixtures, or we run front end fixtures, it's just EE.
Yep.
So what's gonna need to happen if you change any part of Startup CSS, it's going to trigger an as if FOSS pipeline so that we can also run the FOSS check if we need to update CE. And usually you need to update both. So one thing you could do is with whatever patch that's generated here, just apply the same patch. If you can manipulate the patch to apply it to the CE files or manually make the changes, you're going to end up having to do it even if the pipeline says that, because it's possible that the pipeline did not run the CE check job, but it will once you've updated the EE ones. That's the big.
Is that something that's as easy as just like changing, like, is the diffs going to be exactly the same between the two?
Probably be exactly the same. And so I think the files are still the exact same. They could be different. And we did this to optimistically prevent breaking the FOSS build. But even right now, the files are exactly the same. So you could just run this on the EE files and then probably just copy the EE files over to the CE. And that's probably the same. So all of it to say, if this job fails and you apply just this patch and you push it up, you might see another pipeline failure, but it's actually the as if FOSS job now failing, because now that job was actually triggered to run because we made Startup CSS changes when previously it wasn't running. So that's one thing that can happen, which is a little weird. But yeah.
And then just to verify too, so we don't need to add an output here?
Nope, because it's still the same kind of.
Oh, okay, I see. Yeah, because it's using that. It's okay. Yeah, I see now.
Yep. Yeah, that's it.
Cool. All right. Well, thanks.
Yeah, thanks.
Hopefully this is helpful for anyone else that runs into this.
Hopefully we can just remove Startup CSS soon. That's the goal. All right. Cool. Yeah, thanks for letting me record.